On Protracted War was written in 1938, at a time when the Northeast had already been lost for 7 years. The entire nation, both military and civilians, was fighting bravely, and the full-scale war of resistance against Japan had been going on for a year. However, Beiping, Tianjin, Shanghai, and Nanjing had all fallen one after another, and all of North and Central China had been lost. The Battle of Songhu ended in defeat, Suzhou was lost, and Wuhan was in grave danger. The situation within the country became chaotic and confusing for a time. Defeatism and the theory of a quick, decisive victory, these two erroneous currents of thought became intertwined, seriously undermining the determination and pace of the entire nation's resistance. Even Chiang Kai-shek and the top ranks of the Kuomintang began to show signs of pessimism, discouragement, and fear of war. At this critical moment for the nation's survival, Chairman Mao secluded himself in a cave, dwelling in Yan'an for 10 days, and wrote the astonishing 50,000-character treatise on Protracted War. He became a bright beacon in the midst of the dark fog, illuminating the path to victory in the war of resistance for the entire nation. After reading On Protracted War, Chiang Kai-shek was also amazed and said, "Fortunately, we have Mao Zedong." He immediately began to adjust the entire strategic plan for the Battle of Wuhan, shifting from the original strategy of concentrating heavy forces for a staunch defense to breaking up the troops into smaller units, implementing layered resistance, advancing while fighting, and employing guerrilla tactics to harass the enemy from the rear. As a result, by the end, the Battle of Wuhan had turned into a quagmire that bogged down the Japanese army. They committed 1/3 of their invasion forces in China, spent 5 months, lost half of their troops in the East China region, and their military expenditures exceeded 6 billion yen. In addition, they consumed a vast amount of manpower and resources, all of which far surpassed Japan's entire national strategic reserves at the time. And the spoils of their victory was Wuhan, which we had already emptied in advance. As soon as On Protracted War was published, the Kuomintang, under the guidance of this divine work, turned the tide. At the most difficult moment of the War of Resistance, a turning point appeared, and thus the war entered the stage of strategic stalemate. The Japanese invading forces in China began to decline, all the way until their surrender in 1945. Now let's return to the present and calmly examine ourselves. That's right, there are many difficulties. I remember that many well-known Chinese entrepreneurs have all coincidentally mentioned one thing. Whenever they encounter difficulties that seem insurmountable or fall into complete confusion, they will reread On Protracted War. After that, they pull themselves together, set out again, and climb to the next peak.